Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I am your host, Dr. G. And as always, I'm so glad that you could keep our appointment. Glad to be back with you all tonight. And tonight, I am joined by Consul General Lamont Maurice and SiStar Charis Wilkinson Bey. And they're going to discuss a recent jurisdictional victory over the de facto court system. We always need those victiries so that we can validate these processes. So I am not going to say a lot about enforcetheconstitution.org. You can go over there to the website and learn what you don't know. But tonight, we ask that you maybe have a pen, a pencil, a pen of paper, and be prepared to take notes and bear witness as we delve into SiStar Charis Wilkinson Bey's, I'm going to call it roller coaster ride and subsequent exoneration by the de facto court system. Learn how enforcing the Constitution is not just our exclusive right, but our civic duty as Moorish Americans, as instructed by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So, we're not going to take up any more of your time. Music is going to continue to play, but without further ado, I'm going to bring on Consul General Lamont Maurice L and SiStar Charis Wilkinson Bey. Welcome. How are you? Let me get you unmuted. Oh shit. Yeah. Welcome to the show, y'all.
Peace and love. Hey, how are you, Dr. G?
Peace and love to everybody in the chat. Listen, you want to take click share this with somebody who's not on here. There's definitely not enough people on here to hear about this. I call it exciting news, and I'm so happy to have been updated as the process has been going on, and then to get the victory report a couple of days ago. Well, yesterday, as a matter of fact, right?
Yeah.
So, this isn't some old news. This is hot off the press. Yeah, that's me. All right, hot off the press. Welcome back to Office Hours with Dr. G. Consul General Lamont Maurice L. You've been busy, as has your team, and SiStar Charis Wilkinson Bey. You are a part of the team, and you all are doing a fantastic job over there. And I'm so glad that Consul General, that you have a competent group of men and women that are working with you. I'm saying women and men that are working with you and helping to enforce the Constitution. But what we want, and you want to talk about tonight, is a situation that a lot of folks have faced and not been as successful as what you're going to talk about. So with that said, I'm going to let you introduce or let us know exactly the scenario and what happened. And then you and SiStar Charis can kind of tell us how it all unfolded and culminated yesterday with the win, with the victory.
So where do we start? Where do we start, SiStar Charis? I think she's frozen. Is she frozen?
Oh, no, she's not frozen.
Okay. All right, there it is. So we can actually start as far back as the signing of the deed of trust, when she first, entered into the mortgage contractual agreement. But we don't have that much time.
Well, for the benefit of those who might be dealing with mortgage or the did pledge issue, if you could just at least, let them know. First of all, we never said what this was about. We just said a victory. So now you're saying it. So letting the audience know what the subject matter is, so that they can relate or not relate.
So the subject matter, I would say, under color of law, under their unlawful regulations, is trespassing and fourth-degree burglary. Those were the alleged charges that the unconstitutional bill attainder, which is still case number, whatever, that's what reflected. Of course, that's color of law is the appearance without the semblance of a legal right. So it appears as if it's fourth-degree burglary or trespassing, but that's not what it truly is.
May I interrupt you? Just before you go there, let our audience know how it even got to that point. If we're talking about her mortgage, how did she trespass? What happened to precede that? Okay.
All right. So the sister, and cut in whenever you feel as though you need to, Sister Charis.
Okay.
She entered into the mortgage back in 1998. And since then, she's been allegedly paying on the mortgage using the fiat system, right? And eventually, I think it was an insurance situation where they claimed that she borrowed money. And long story short, there was a foreclosure case. She went to some other brother or some other group of individuals, and it didn't work out. Eventually, she stumbled upon a video that I've done and came to a class with another brother that introduced her to me. And eventually, she reached out and got a consultation with me and then consular assistance. That was, I want to say, around January 2024. And this was in the midst of her dealing with the de facto foreclosure case. So I let her know that she had to nationalize, which ultimately means you have to decolonize, because it's the same term, just nationalization is what decolonization is, the meanings of them, same thing. And it ultimately means, yes, you get your national identification card, you make a public declaration, you use those instruments to correct the contractual agreements or the accounts that you have opened up in that slave name, that you've been operating on and doing business with. So you want to correct all of that, but also you want to terminate those agreements that deal with slavery or put you under the 14th Amendment regulation clause. And so she did just that. And one of the things I also told her was, because she's still dealing with the mortgage or mortgage payments, alleged mortgage payments, she had to dispute the mortgage, So while she was doing the foreclosure challenge, the jurisdictional challenge with the foreclosure, that was the process of quo warranto, which is ultimately meaning by what authority, or to inquire into the authority of this venue that's claiming or operating as a court, or what appears to be a court, having judicial power. So while that's going on, she started to work on the dispute for her mortgage. That is on the website, enforcetheconstitution.org. You will click on mortgage dispute, and you'll see the whole paper trail process. The mortgage company at the time, which is a third-party interloper from what I learned with Sister Charis, that wasn't the original financial institution that claims to be a bank. That wasn't the original institution. It was transferred, I think, like maybe 3-4 times. So now it's Santander Bank. And the CEO of Santander Bank, I think his name is Tim Weens.
Yeah.
We addressed what Charis addressed, and I assisted, of course, addressed Tim Weens acting as the CEO, president of Santander Bank, with the writ of, an affidavit of dispute. And the dispute was to the mortgage statement, the most recent mortgage statement. And all of that can be shown and verified, confirmed, and scrutinized right on the website, the paper trail. And it led all the way up to him sending a letter from the executive department or executive office of Santander Bank saying that it was paid in full on September 5th or 6th, 2024, which exposes the fraud. One, she didn't pay it in full. And two, only thing that could be paid for debts is gold and silver coin. So it actually was discharged, and they always discharge it. So that was a process that already takes place. If a lot of people just take time out to go to their county land records and look up their mortgage, their deed, they'll see additional filings that they don't have no idea about or wasn't fully disclosed. But most of the time, you'll see a filing titled release or certificate of satisfaction. That means that's basically showing that it's been paid in full and discharged, but it's not paid in full, it's discharged, which means the debt still exists. So that's part of the fraud that the sister and I helped her with proving. She proved the fraud and swindles. And on the other side, with dealing with the foreclosure case, the de facto foreclosure case, they had, I guess, caught wind of what she was doing. And I told her, they're paying attention to you, because ultimately it's not what people think it is. This is pure colonialism. And they're using the system known as feudalism. Feudalism is colonialism. That's what the usufruct that Taj Sharik Bey was speaking about last week, that's what he was referring to. It's colonialism, also known as feudalism. And the fee is dealing with your estate that you abandoned, because you as an heir, you don't even know that you're an heir. You don't have no historical ties with the land mentally and even socially. So you're speaking as a slave, which is a Slav. That's not your pedigree. Nevertheless, it's trading places. Nevertheless, the sister had issued a writ of quo warranto challenging the jurisdiction of Prince George's County Circuit Court and the de facto clerk and administrative clerk who pretend to be judges, which we'll get into soon, and commanding for them to produce delegation of authority order from Congress per Article 3, Section 1 and 2, that of the Constitution for the United States of America. That is known as the Judicial Power Clause. So if they have the judicial power and jurisdiction to hear and decide cases under Article 3, which covers all types of cases and controversies, including diversity of citizenship cases, which is international, which makes the Constitution itself a international treaty. It's international treaty law, the Constitution, under Article 3 and Article 6, both articles dealing with treaties. So it covers all cases and controversies. If that venue does not produce that delegation of authority order, which they can't, and we'll get into that soon too, it's not a court, doesn't have the jurisdiction or power to hear and decide anything, damn thing, unless you consent to it. And ultimately, the case has to be dismissed. Nevertheless, Sister Charis has undergo a lot of evidence tampering. They removed the signature page and the order page on her default judgment, talking about people in the clerk's office of the Prince George's County Circuit Court at Maryland. They removed this, like, certain pages, and said that, that's how we found it because we received it that way, which is a lie. If there's no signature on the document, they're not going to file it. They're going to send it back to you with a memorandum saying that this is not signed. They actually have a form that they fill out and, they send it to you. So all of that was done intentionally. And then as that was being corrected by Charis, because she had to go back up there like maybe 3-4 times within one day or 2 days, as that was being corrected, they had also filed, I believe, a motion for the issuance of a writ of possession. And then the motion was granted. And then it was issued all within, it was from Friday to the following Monday. All of that happened. And normally that takes about up to 2 years for that to happen in a foreclosure case. That happened within from Friday to Monday. And so now the writ of possession is issued, but the Sheriff's Department, Prince George's County Sheriff's Department or Sheriff's Office, not execute the writ for some months. So while, they're holding the writ or holding off on the execution of it, Charis is, recording all of the things that she has to record in the case, making sure that the documents have all the page numbers on it, making the phone calls to have them correct what the record reflects on Maryland Judiciary case search, because they was, misrepresenting what she was recording in the case to be something that it's not. And, she's also decolonizing. She's disputing her job, putting her job on notice. They did some indefinite suspension, which they still going to have to answer for right now, even up to today. But it's not because she did anything wrong. She just declared a nationality. But this is what it means to nationalize. People think it's just the card or the paperwork. No, it's the records. Remember, we have covenants, we have contracts and agreements that the Constitution can't even, states can't pass laws that impair the obligation of contracts, meaning they can't interfere with any private personal contract that you have. It's still enforceable, even if it's dealing with fraud. You have to prove the fraud. Only person that could repeal the contract is the parties to the contract. So we have to correct that, because we've been doing business and commerce in slave names and Sister QV trust that we did not create. Our parents authorized it and we were able to represent it, but it is not in our interests. It's just, people still colonize thinking that instrument that was created by the unclean hand of others is supposed to benefit us somehow. No, we're supposed to render what belongs to Caesar back to Caesar and take what's God, the rulers of the land, right? The people of the land take back what is God's. Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately what nationalization is. It's decolonization. So the sister got all her records corrected, and eventually, long behold, Prince George's County sheriffs came and they put her out of her property. So now that we have a writ of error that was issued, because now she's been qualified, of course, she went through the background check screening, basically to get the security clearance that we now implement. And for everybody that's wanting to be under consular jurisdiction, now she has treaty rights under consular jurisdiction for Morocco Consular Court to get involved. So Morocco Consular Court convened. We heard Sister Charis's case, and writ of error was issued, as well as a default judgment. And that can be found on the website. I don't think I uploaded those yet, but I will. It's going to be uploaded on consular court cases, but there's other cases uploaded there. But that's on the website, enforcetheconstitution.org. So now we have a writ of error that shows that the judgment, as well as the writ of possession and whatever else order that was issued, is void ab initio. That means void from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And unenforceable for lack of jurisdiction and fraud. And all of that is explained in there. Lo and behold, she attempted to enforce. One of the sheriff's deputies was acting belligerent and got a little aggressive. A lot of the people there, they were what they would call illegal immigrants. I think a lot of Venezuelans. But yeah, they were, for the most part, criminals, because it was like a free fall. They were just stealing her stuff. And the Prince George's County Sheriff's Office, those two sheriff's deputies, they allowed it. And she took some pictures and all of that. She made complaints. Her arguments weren't heard. But nevertheless, because of the coaching that she's getting, she's still staying strong, and she's studying as well as studying herself. So long and behold, she comes back to the property, and she has 2 officers with her, myself and the brother George. And we went back into the property. We made the necessary phone calls to the Laurel Police Department, that's Laurel, Maryland, and then another to Prince George's County Sheriff's Office. And I left a message with the Sheriff Carr. And Sister Charis, she also talked to the Sheriff's assistant, Miss Cook. And so everybody was notified. Went back into the property. The following day, the third-party interloper representative came to the property, acted like, oh my God, I don't know who you are, called the police. So now we're talking to the police. I started our protocol that we have for people that are under consular jurisdiction, where we all meet on Zoom, and I do the coaching. And I'm coaching the sister. And the first set of policemen, it was an Asiatic woman and a Occidental European colonizer male. And they were pretty cool, and they were listening, because I know sometimes I could speak over their head, but I don't want to. That's not my intentions. But the supervisor was called. He came. I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name, Charis?
It was Hulk.
Hulk. Remember his badge ID number?
Not offhand. I can find it. But, yeah.
I wish I had his picture and everything, because he was coming on the scene, and he got I guess his ego got tampered with, because he was not speaking to somebody that was ignorant to what the subject matter was. And it's pretty much consular jurisdiction, protection, and full faith and credit. Full faith and credit has to be given. He tried to act like those documents, the certified copy of the writ of error issued from Morocco Consular Court and entered into the records of Prince George's County Circuit Court, that de facto court, that's really a private corporation. But they certified it. So full faith and credit has to be given in their jurisdiction, even though it's false corporate foreign jurisdiction. And he acted like it might have been fake. He acted like, he contacted somebody from the sheriff's office. They told him there's no such document in the record at all. All there is a writ of possession, and we executed the writ of possession. So, and that was what was said by Hope, by one of his contacts with the Prince George's County Sheriff's Office. Do you remember that contact name?
Not offhand. Was it oh no. Oh, okay. I forgot. But I know Hope's badge number was 5357.
5357, Hope. Laurel Police Department. Yeah, he has a suit against him. But anyway, he's a European guy. Proper term. Occidental European. Not because we're also the true Europeans. Anyway. So now I'm explaining, we're going back and forth. And then he asks the sister, how did she get in the property? And he was supposed to have been directing all his questions to me, because I'm the consul that you're supposed to speak to. And the sister, because she was comfortable and she didn't have anything to hide, she said how she got in the property, but she also mentioned the alarm being triggered, and she being the one that triggered the alarm. It was on accident, but we had already called the alarm company, explained our presence, explained our triggering the alarm, how it being a mistake. Nevertheless, they kidnapped her, and they even told her, talking about the police, Laurel police, they kidnapped her, and they explained to her why they kidnapped her, basically saying that, because you said you triggered the alarm. But anyway, still no excuse for kidnapping and human trafficking. other than for the purpose of commerce and, plundering as spoils of war, because that's what's going on. And that's what those traffic stops really are. That's why they call them traffic stops, commercial stops. Traffic means commerce. But they transferred her to Prince George's County Detention. I think it's called something else now, Division of Corrections. And they processed, the information that she had, the national identification card. So it was Charis Wilkinson Bey. They didn't use the slave name. And there were a lot of holes that they left. And I know normally when they do that, it's somebody behind the scenes, showing you, if you're paying attention, because what do they say? Signs and symbols are for men of understanding. So if you understand the sign and symbol, that's being thrown at you, then you understand the hole that's about to be given to them, or the window. So I explained that to the sister, like, yeah, it's a lot of holes. She was like, yeah, they put this, they didn't do that. Don't worry about it. So recently she sent in the writ of quo warranto to Prince George's County District Court, because now there's a case there. And I already told her I've dealt with them back in 2012, 2013. And since then, they've been staying out my way for the most part, including the people that I'm assisting, and some of the people that had the tags that I issued at one point back in 2021, 2022, they stayed out their way too. So I told her she didn't have anything to worry about, but still look at this as your test, because you're still going to be tested. They're still going to test you. And they did. She did the quo warranto, the default judgment. The writ of error was in reference to the instrument that she was forced to sign. I think it was titled Initial Appearance Report. So that's like the appearance bond. She signed it under protest and duress. And she did a writ of error showing that it's void. She also rescinded the signature. So then the test came, which was them stamping the word denied on the rescission of signature that she did for the initial appearance bond. And I said, okay, so, I'm talking to her now. This is part of the little coaching session that I do. I said, okay, so what do you think that is? You think that's a denial order? She said, yeah. I said, why? She explained. I said, no, that's not a denial order. Normally, their denial orders look like this, showed the example of it, or explained it. And I said, that's not a denial order. That's called tampering with evidence. That was something that was shown to me back in, I want to say 2012. And PG County District Court, same venue, they did it. They did an instrument that appeared to be a denial on my first page of my writ of quo warranto, or maybe it was a default judgment. And they claimed they considered it as a denial order in the Maryland records, in the Maryland case search. But when I started to study it a little more, I'm like, nah, this isn't necessarily a denial order. They have their formats, because I've seen their denial orders, right? I said, no, this is tampering with evidence. All they did was stamp something and sign it and date it, which altered my evidence because I marked it as Exhibit A or whatever I did. So that's the same thing that I explained to Charis. It's more so an attorney trick, because these are magicians, all of them.
Is that like a scare tactic? Is that sort of like a scare tactic to get you to just say, "Oh,
it's a tactic"? It's no different than, and the de facto judges know this because they do it when you say that you're representing yourself. The next question is, when you say that you are representing yourself, the next question is, what is your level of education? Because the old attorney joke goes, one who represents himself has a fool for a client.
We'll have 30 seconds remaining.
You know why? Because you're a damn fool thinking that you can represent yourself if you're already present. Re means to do over. So you can't be represented. Only thing that could be represented are things that are not present, meaning the dead, a corporation like Walmart being represented, or you representing your grandfather's estate because he's not here, he's not present. So the only thing that gets represented is the dead. And that's the old attorney joke. That's why they ask you, okay, you representing yourself? All right, what's your level of education? I got some college. Yeah, you've been educated, because education is docility training for animals. You know connotative linguistics. You have connotation language. So that's how they could tell. And because, you know, I sharpened the sister with how to respond to that, she responded accordingly. And then at that point, I issued writ of quo warranto from consular court. You know, we convened, spoke, and then I issued, because I think that, you know, at that point she was deemed competent. And then we did murder board. We did a mock court proceeding a few Sundays ago, which went extremely well. I was the judge. Another sister was the prosecuting attorney. We had a bailiff and we had a clerk. And we had like a background of a venue, a court venue, a de facto court venue. And it went really well. We did the transcripts. We did it with the sister Charis and another sister, Brittany Boyd Bay. And both of them did extremely well. Sister Brittany had a hearing that following week. So the mock court that we did with her, it really helped her with her hearing. And she was able to peep the windows and all of that, because once you demonstrate, because it's decolonization is here too. It's mental. It's actually all it is. It's mental. When I say decolonize now, I'm referring to the mental as well as the contracts that people are still holding on to that come from the ideas of colonizers. So decolonize is what nationalization is. You take back your inheritance, your estate, and you give them back their estate, which is all their ideas. And that's what the sister did. And long and behold, I came up there with the brother Freddie, who was standing as Mufti and Sergeant at Arms at the time. And we met the sister Charis at the venue yesterday. It was yesterday, last Monday.
Yeah.
And we went in there. I prepped her. You know, she was good. She wasn't nervous or anything like that. I was pretty much reminiscent about all the old cases that and times that I didn't had to go there. It was training, I guess, for what I'm doing now. You know, not I guess, I know it was training for what I'm doing now. But watching the whole venue, like everybody in there with their cases, and I thought they were gonna call her case last. They didn't. They called it somewhere in the middle. I want to say maybe like the 7th or 8th case. And you want to tell this part, sister? Because I don't want to do all the talking.
I can.
You want
to
tell this part? Go ahead. Because it'll be good to hear from you too, because this is your experience.
Yes. So I sat there patiently, and then when I was finally called, at first I was wondering, like, at the beginning, like, why they didn't call my name to see was I present? You know, was I here? And so I started like the wonder, like, I wonder what that meant. I was just paying attention to the different.
Let me explain that part.
Okay.
So for everybody that doesn't know what she's referring to, before the de facto judge comes into the room, before they say all rise, the state's attorney comes in there. The bailiff's supposed to already be in there. The state's attorneys comes in there, and then they get situated, and then they start to read off a list of names of everybody that's supposed to be having a hearing that day. And one name that wasn't mentioned was hers. But didn't you say that you heard them say Wilkerson Bay? Whisper Wilkerson Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So her name was whispered. They whispered her name. But then when it was time to read off the name list, they did not say Charis Wilkinson Bey at all. And they knew, they looking at the fezzes and her turban, and they knew,
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So actually, this was like one of my first times getting up in front of one of the de facto judges. So when I was called to the front, I realized none of the officers or the FOPs, they were not there. So I went to the front, and the de facto
Is that
judge.
my screen or is that her screen?
Everything's okay.
Is it froze?
No.
So the de facto judge said, "You good?"
Oh, that's mine. Apologize.
Okay. So the de facto judge was like, okay, so, after he called my name, he asked, was any of the FOPs present? And they were like, no. And he just dismissed the case. And I'm like, oh, that was easy. And so I left. As I was leaving, he just was like, thank you for coming. And I said, you're welcome. And, and I was about to leave, and the bailiff was like, you could get your paper, will be mailed to you. And I'm like, okay. And then he said, no, she can have her paper now. So I walked around the side and just grabbed the paper. And then once again, he said, you make sure you have a great day. And I'm like, you do the same. And I left. It was easy, but all the training that was done, that was done beforehand, the mock court, everything was so helpful. And I'm glad that I did all of that. But that day came, I was ready, but I didn't have to do any of that. It was just dismissed, and I left. So it was dismissed based on lack of jurisdiction and fraud, actually.
So, yeah, because look, and this is what I had to explain to her. Mm-hmm. They're going to always try to create a narrative. Mm-hmm. But remember, the monologue that they repeat is you have the right to remain silent. Not that part, but anything you say can and will be used against you. If you say it slower, anything you say can and will be used against you. So it's not even an option. So it's not what they say that they're using against you. It's what you say or what you don't say that they're going to use against you, because silence is also a response. It's called a non-response. So that means you agree to what they say. Mm-hmm. So her putting in the default judgment, which is on the website on criminal cases. It's on criminal cases. It should be at the top. That's what the record reflects. And full faith and credit has to be given to that record under Article 4, Section 1 of the Constitution for the United States of North America. Full faith and credit. And then there, if you go to the full faith and credit definition in the Law Dictionary, Black's Law, 5th edition, it gives 2 case laws that talks about judgments and records as well as foreign judgments. And what she filed was considered a foreign judgment. It was a judgment by their default, meaning they defaulted in answering the writ of quo warranto and proving jurisdiction. So the case was dismissed based off of the default judgment. What they said on the record, to throw the masses off was, the police aren't here. Okay, state wishes to enter a nulli prosequi, which is a fancy word for dismissal or no prosecution. And then they gave her all of the facial expressions, the smiles and the pleasantness, because really it's all about civility. Because Masonry, which is what Moorish science is, it didn't start with Freemasonry. Masonry is Moorish science, and it's dealing with civics, which is civilized, a civilized being, a civilized man or woman. The opposite of civics, or the antonym of civics, is savage, which is what, people getting tattooed or wear it on their, their shirt, savage. That's the opposite of civics. And that's why they created the animal husbandry training program, which is what we're all coming out of. Some of us love it so much, want to stay there. I ain't talking about them. I'm talking about the people that's nationalizing. You're coming out of savagery. So, yeah, you need to learn Masonry, which is Moorish science. Masonry, that's Circle 7 on the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That Circle 7 is used in Masonry and Freemasonry, but Freemasonry is Masonry. Freemasonry, actually, just a side note, what I learned, Freemasonry is actually speculative Masonry. Speculative Masonry. So all they're doing is using the tools in Masonry for their growth and development to build moral character. That's why they're using Masonry. And then they learn some of the magic and science and things that how to manipulate nature and the minds of people. They use that to their advantage, which is the dark side of Masonry, because everything has a dark side, just like everything has two sides. Everything. That's called duality. That's the law of duality. So getting back to the sister's case, I explained to her, how it says in Circle 7, the highest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths. So this is obviously your greatest depths. And I've heard her say it in the beginning when we were first training with the consular assistants. She was like, man, I ain't trying to go to jail, man. I ain't, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, look, don't say that, because, you're going to have to face that, because that's a demon that you just created in your mind. That's what demons are. The devil is self. The Savior is also self. So the self creates these demons that are basically shadows of thought, and then you got to face them. You know what I mean? So she had to face it, and she faced it. And all it did was, what does chapter 1 say? Thought must be developed by the exercise of strength. And so this cardinal nature soon became a foe that man must fight. And that's what I continued to explain to Charis throughout the training, that you might be the strength of Allah made manifest, because Allah is infinite thought. You're supposed to be that infinite thought strength made manifest. So yeah, you're going to be shot situations. And by them being replications of our lower self, they're targeting your lower self. So your cardinal self is what you're really facing. And when she went in the venue and then it was just dismissed, she was like, oh man, that's it. I said, no, that wasn't it. You faced it already. It was the build up to this. And I know that because I've been in that situation so many times where I'm at the venue and I'm ready to battle. And it was almost like, yeah, y'all, they made a phone call. Yeah, he looks too ready. So go ahead and dismiss the case. Let's piss him off that way, because he's ready to like challenge jurisdiction. And we didn't seen his transcripts. Nah, let's just dismiss it. And I'd be upset. But yeah, it was the buildup. So I'd explain that to him. It was like, nah, it says your hearing was the time that you filed the quo warranto. Because it's a double-edged sword. That's when your hearing was to inquire into their authority. But remember, the same measure that you judge, you're going to be judged. So it was inquiring to your authority too. So it go like this. It's pointing at them and you. And people don't want to accept that. They want to just point the finger and ignore the three fingers pointing back at them and think that they don't have to prove anything. Only the opposers, their oppositions have to prove. But no, you got to prove too. 2 Timothy chapter 2, study and show thyself approved before God, a workman who need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So if you're dividing the word of truth, what are you dividing it from? Falsehood. So she had to face the falsehood in herself. And it was a battle. That was the battle. And then she came before the opposers and they were like, you make sure you have a great day. He went out his way. The de facto judge went out his way to be civilized with her and chivalrous out of everybody. Did it with her. And I also know that's not nothing new, because they did it with Prime Minister too. In Taj's story, where he met Prime Minister Daria Bey when he first met her. And this is Dr. Hannibal telling the story. The prime minister pointed at a policy enforcer, because when she was coming in, I think he insulted her the turban, called it a rag or something like that, and she said that to the de facto judge, and the de facto judge made the policy enforcer come in there and apologize, because Moorish Americans, that's the nationality. That's not a religion. That's a nationality. We are known, our history is known to be upright citizens, not citizens of the United States of America. No. Citizens is also a civilized man or woman. We're known to be chivalrous or to speak like white people, because, yeah, we're the real white people, and it's not a complexion. So we had honor, we had dignity, we had moral character, and everybody learned from us, our foremothers and forefathers here at North America, or the Americas, not just North America. And so they know that history. So when we nationalize, that's also learning civics, which is chivalry, which is what, if you look at the culture now and what's being promoted, the opposite is being promoted. It's savagery and death. And that's for the purpose of genocide. But yeah, that's why the sister had that, experience. I told her it was pretty much the buildup. It was the journey to there. That's what the nationalization process is. And that's why the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Science Temple of America, was created. It was created for preparation and training, not just to be a holier than thou religious corporation, because it was only a religious corporation for 1 year. So most of Noble Drew Ali's work didn't happen within 1 year. It happened over a course of years from 1913 to 1929. And 1928, Moorish Science Temple of America was created as a religious corporation, still a civic organization, that it still was back since the 1913. But yeah, I just wanted to make that point. Mm-hmm. But congratulations to the sister for not folding. And she's one of the ones that deserves to be highlighted. It's a lot of them that's working with me, and I have the pleasure of working with brothers and sisters that are going to be that was highlighted and will be highlighted in the near future because of their great work. And but what we really appreciate is a sister, a woman, a mother that has stepped up and gone through, dismal crypts. And, she was, how long was you there? Maybe for like a few hours?
Probably about 13 hours of that, about 13 hours.
Yeah, that's all you needed anyway. You ain't need no day, none of that. Just touched it a little bit to get a little experience. Right. Mm-hmm. And then, but the experience though, if you, Sister Charis, and I said this to her privately, if she was to have a conversation with somebody else that went to jail, like just commonly went to jail, or a so-called sovereign citizen that went to jail as a so-called sovereign citizen, it will be a different experience. Same detention center. Mm-hmm. It will be a different experience. She would say, well, I didn't experience that. I say the same damn thing. And that's when I was realizing that it is a conflict that can't be told in words. And yes. Noble Drew Ali did have to say in his letter, the truth and the divine truth, because you find out who the real problem was. Who the real problem was even in this movement. And it wasn't the colonizers. They were the initial problem, but they are not the reason why we're still going through what we're going through. And that's the letter to be proclaimed before every meeting. He said that. El-Haj Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, Noble Drew Ali, said to be proclaimed before every meeting, dear Islam, he said, Islam, I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for you to know the truth and the divine truth. Then he goes right into how there's jealousy among the Moors on our side of the government. That was the truth and the divine truth. It was the sellout. And when Charis went through her experience, you know, which was similar to my experience, you know, she just didn't have the long amount of years. She didn't need that. Similar to George's experience and everybody else's experience who were sincere, it's not the same as other people's experiences that aren't sincere. They actually go through hell. They get slammed on the ground. You know what I mean? They get thrown in the hole and forced to take, you know, swabs or whatever they had to do. They get, you know, big, like the paperwork. We would do the same paperwork. You know, I'm talking now about the people that I found out later, you know, were either informants or they was just dirty Moors. We would do the same paperwork in the same venue, but their paperwork, every last one of them would have had denied on it. Like big disrespectful denied, all right there in the middle. I just was not understanding until I fully comprehended that letter, the truth and the divine truth that Drew Ali was talking about. So yeah, you basically see from experience what the problem was. And, you know, you also get to talk to the people that's human trafficking you and seeing their level of understanding. Some of them will open up to you like, look, man, I'm really actually interested. And where's it where I can go to learn more, you know, while you're in handcuffs, you know, because that happened to me several times. So it was like, well, I ain't gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that because I don't want to, you know, get people looked at. But yeah, a lot of the policy enforcers of the Fraternal Order of Police, policemen, policewomen, a lot of them want to nationalize because they're seeing the truth, and they were just people at a job, you know, working a job. Some were some punks in high school. Others were just pretty much people that want to like help protect their community according to the civil rights state of mind, that program, right? And they don't mean no harm, but then they get in it and they see the corruption. So, and then, you know, they watch Tariq Bey secretly, you know, they come together secretly and they want to nationalize. Some of them reached out to me. Some of them were scared to reach out to me. So it's very interesting. And then the opposition, like Charles County Sheriff's Office, right? And Charles County Sheriff Department, you know, they respect their position, but it's like, you know, when you got your uniform on, you respect the enemy as the enemy. You know what I mean? It's a level of respect. You know what I mean? Even when, you know, when you used to like, you know, be a part of a clique or whatever, and y'all are fighting, and it's that one person on the other side that ain't going back down, that got heart, and they, you know, even though they all beat up or whatever, they still keep getting up, putting their hands up. You being the opposition, you gonna respect that. You know, we respect it, especially if you're not a bully. You know, I ain't no bully. And that's what they saw in me. And, you know, a lot of them, you know, respect me to the point where, you know, they dap me up every time they see me whenever I come out there. And, you know, they let me know, look, man, you're not on our radar. We're not worried about you. You're good. You know, just, you know, I told them, look, if y'all would have told me that the people that were coming around who y'all were worried about were actually criminals, and I just didn't know that I was dealing with criminals, then, you know, I wouldn't be in the S word that I was in, you know, all of the times, even back in 2013 during that Mansion case and that other Charles County case, if I'd have known what was around me. But I also respect that, no, Lamont, you're on your side of the chessboard. They're on their side. You're supposed to know the moves that you're making. So I had to respect that too. I got to do a screening, background check, and vetting and things of that nature. That's my responsibility, not theirs. But ultimately, we had that conversation. But ultimately, it's dealing with morals. That's what it's dealing with. And even Freemason, I think his name, Albert Pike, wrote the book, Morals and Dogma, because that's what it really is. It's morals and then it's mind control, because that's what dogma is. And you can tell who's under what by their language.
You know, Consul General, I was thinking while you were speaking, one of our well, we've talked about this more than once, but in our conversations, when you talk about the respect that you now have after, having, been in their custody for more than a few times and had conversations with them, and they do respect you as Consul General now as a legitimate office, but there's I hear an echo. But the question you said that came up was, what do we have as a I don't know, body politic that is in place to protect everybody else from the true criminals, even though they may be Moors? Do we just slap them on the wrist, or and is that not their concern about us being able to self-govern in that from that respect? And what do you see, if so, what do you see as needing to be done to give that assurance that we too, we don't play with criminals either?
Yeah. So in 2012, and I said this to enough people that I ran into, because I was puzzled about it for years. There was a special task force that was created in the Prince George's County Police Department that were working for the FBI, or working with or in association with the FBI, however they call it. And that special task force were assigned to not gangs. Normally it'd be gangs, but in this case it was so-called sovereign citizens and Moorish nationals. That's what the manual said that I saw. Said sovereign citizens and Moorish nationals, or Moorish nation, something like that. And when they went through, they pulled me over, took my stuff. I had the Moorish tags on my car back in 2012, and they impounded the car for a while. And then following week, they called me into their police station in Palmer Park, Maryland, and gave me all my stuff back. We had got the car out before that following week, so I guess they would have probably gave us the car too. But they were apologizing. It was an agent that came out, Caucasian. He apologized, and he said that we thought that you were with this other group that we were investigating, and instead of suing us, could you teach us? Because we looked in your file, your laptop, we saw that you did classes at the library, and you're not associated with this group that we've been investigating, because we looked at all of your documents, and all we saw was like trees and stuff from State Department, United Nations, and then the documents that you did with Superior Court for the District of Columbia, and that traffic case. And he said, man, listen, we didn't know. Instead of suing us, could you teach us? So I thought it was, BS at the time, because, first of all, I'm like, you're the police. I'm not, what do you mean teach you? I'm not, what do you mean, like in the classroom? And I said that too. I was like, you mean in the classroom, like classroom setting, like how y'all have on y'all police shows? He was like, yeah. So that me and my agents could learn about the Moorish Americans and not violate you all's rights. I thought that was horse boo-boo. I was like, nah. I got my poker face on, but in my head, I'm like, hell no. But I'm still like, at the time, considering like, but what if he's sincere? Just to find out from a former Deputy U.S. Marshal, who's my brother, he's with us too. Just to find out from him years later, no, he was definitely sincere, and a bunch of other policemen too. And the guy also said, yeah, I actually thought that the Indians were the Aboriginal people until I saw the proclamations from the different mayors that they're proclaiming the Moorish Americans to be the Aboriginal people. So what does this say about my wife who's 1/18 Cherokee? And I was like in my head, damn, look, he's still trying to steal the birthright. Still trying to claim some of the birthright. But anyway, I said, I don't know. You got to, look into that. But because I was still studying myself. But yeah, they were worried back then up to now about me. This is back then too. They were worried about me protecting, because I know how to, he knows how to get cases dismissed, right? Because that's their conversation, because they don't know jurisprudence. And they're actually learning jurisprudence from Taj Tariq Bey. And, what I have on the website and what's on rvbaypublications.com because that's jurisprudence. So this is the only way they're going to get it. But still, they are worried and was worried even back in the 90s, before I even knew about this movement, when Taj was really active and Dr. Hannibal was really active, when all of them were active, extremely active, and they were on the forefront. It was the criminals that was infiltrating and trying to take different processes or different paperwork and try to scheme them up to get out of a crime that they committed, or, get some funds, fiat credit to go buy some Lamborghinis, whatever, or get a mansion built. That's who they were worried about. And it's been since then till now. Now it's a security clearance that the police get through the FBI. It's on FBI.gov. They may take it down because I'm talking about it right now, but on FBI.gov, certain police in the police department get secret security clearance and top secret security clearance. And this on a need-to-know basis in an event that they bump into somebody that actually isn't pretending with the paperwork, or calling themselves Emperor of Morocco, Sultan of Morocco, creating a state, new flag and all of that, and sending crack paperwork, but it's actually somebody that knows jurisprudence and that's enforcing the Constitution, and that's not a criminal. This is bad. So in an event that we get a sincere Moorish American versus somebody that's on criminality, we don't want to confuse the two, one, because that's going to make them look bad internationally. And that, they're in trouble because this is an actual free Moor that's nationalized. But also the people that are criminals that look like us, as Asiatics, that's coming into or trying to come into the ranks of the Moorish Americans, they're worried that the sincere Moorish Americans is going to protect them from crimes. And that's what was asked of me when in 2022, George and I went into Charles County Detention Center, and the brother Taylor Bey, he said, call him Taylor Bey. This is one of the COs. Shout out to Taylor Bey. He said, first time I met him as Taylor, he said, hey man, what if somebody under your consular jurisdiction was to commit a crime? What is you all's punishment for them or penalty? And I said, well, pretty much they won't be under consular jurisdiction anymore. They'll be excommunicado. We've done that before. And he said, that's it? And I said, well, yeah. And he said, okay, all right. And then walked away. And I thought it was, interesting, but I knew exactly what he was saying. So since I was in there, I let that thought germinate and grow. And I started realizing, damn, that's absolutely right. Like outside of the Moorish Science Temple of America, people getting this information, it's open to anybody from any walk of life, so that's extremely dangerous, but it's also that time of Aquarius where knowing is going to be important. It's the only way you're going to survive. But it also allows people to show and reveal themselves. That's what I learned. Because if you are taking what's the light and you're corrupting it, you're going to be revealed to those that are in the light, those that are in the know, or those that are civilized, that's been civilized and never left and never went into the dark ages, I guess. Right. But yeah, it allowed me to see, what my problem was. And I got to see what I was dealing with since 2012, because they were out of my way until I started hooking up with people that were on other processes. And either I knew about it or I didn't know about it. And the ones that I did know about, I tried to get them off of it, and they didn't want to get off of it. With the name change, they wanted to stay with the name change. They want to continue to do UCC processes, or maybe create gold bond, silver bond, and basically try to generate fiat. And that's who the FBI is looking for. That's who the local police are looking for. As a matter of fact, I talked to Quinn Kabir L recently, a few weeks back, and I still keep up with him. He got released from prison. That was with the Rise of the Moors case. He said FBI agents came and visited him in prison, just like they did me. It was only one with me, though. But I think he said it was two. And they were speaking to him and pulled out pictures of my website and pictures of me. And they said, "Do you know him?" And he said, yeah, that's the Consul General. Yeah, I know him. What's going on with him? He said, they were like, well, yeah, nothing. He's good. We're not worried about him. It's the people that's doing the false liens on people and, UCCs and things of that nature. That's who we want. He said, we don't want him. He's actually, doing the right work, I guess. They're not. That's who we're targeting. And Quinn, I ain't quote him verbatim, but, Quinn could tell it better than I can, but because that was his experience. But I was like, yeah, that's what the FBI agent told me when they came to visit me in 2014 when I first went to prison. They went to visit me at the Charles County Detention Center, and then months later when I went to prison. So it was right before I went to prison and then after I went to prison. And he asked me, what do you think Charles County did wrong in your case? That was his question. And I'm thinking in my head, man, I don't trust. He like, man, you think that you still don't trust me, Lamont? Come on, man. We've been talking all this time. The United States doesn't have anything against you. We're not trying to bring a claim against you. But time, I was always taught since I was a child, time tells everybody. So,
well, how could they say that when you were in their custody?
Well, it was the FBI. So he was representing the United States Corporation Company.
Okay.
So I was in the custody of Charles County, Charles County District Court? No, Circuit Court at the time, and in the detention center.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
so that's who they're targeting. And that's
so what,
go ahead, my bad.
I was going to say, so what I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if someone turned out to be a criminal more, you said they would be excommunicated, in other words, released into their jurisdiction to do whatever needs to be done.
Well, actually, Noble Drew Ali said, turn back your cards and buttons and turn in your fares and go back to the state that out of profit found you. That's what I mean when I say excommunicado. I'm doing everything, and I'm also instructing everybody part of the organization to do everything according to the instructions and guidance of Noble Drew Ali. So that's where I got excommunicado from. And then Dr. Hannibal, he came and dropped more erudition on us in 2022 called personam non grata. And when I looked that up, other embassies and consulates make their nationals personam non grata when they commit crimes too. Mm-hmm. So he dropped, that was something else that I had to add to the security clearance and protocol of what I have going on now. So yeah, that's what gave birth to that thought. And even the Charles County sheriffs, they were like, you know, you should create a, they basically said the same thing Dr. Hannibal said, you should create a screening process and then, you know, a background check, you know, and I was like, yeah, I already got that advice. I'm working on that now. But he was like, yeah, man, so that, you know, you can, you know, run your thing that you got going on successfully. This is the same people that you saw jump on me on that video. I mean to say that too. Yeah, the same ones that were on the side of the road that jumped on me and pulled the gun out on George. This is some of them that I'm talking to a few weeks ago when I was at Charles County at the former gun range, and I was shooting the guns out there. Supposed to be so-called ex-felon, right? Yeah, whatever. You know, I pulled up on them at the gas station. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that area, but it's a gas station off of 210 that takes you on the, you know, you make the left and you go down and takes you somehow to the gun range. But yeah, I ran up on them. We talked, and it was just real friendly conversation. And you know, they're on their side, but they pretty much respect what we're doing. They respect what I'm doing. They respect what we're doing as a whole. They respect what Taj is doing because they know that we're not doing anything wrong. And the Homeland Security. Homeland Security was involved. FBI was involved. I think I said that, you know, back in 2023 when we first talked, when I came home. But yeah, they were all involved. They are worried about the Moors, the dirty Moors, the ones that's jealous that Drew Ali was talking about in that letter. They're worried about them. That's who they're worried about. And I get it now. I completely get it.
What I want to ask you though, and just to go back for a minute to Sister Charis, your case. Now that you've been exonerated for the, you know, the trespassing, that case and so forth, where do you stand with regard to reclaiming or recouping, getting your property back? You know, getting back in your property. I know, you know, because they had already done some level of process. What are the next steps? Is there a path forward? I mean, I don't think you're going to just let it go.
No, I'm not going to let it go. I'm working on that process right now, Dr. G. I currently put a 3-day notice on the door to have them vacate the premises. And I have to actually write a letter and attach some of my documents to the FOFers and the strangers and everyone who has interest in the property at this time. So I should be having my property back shortly. I never lost it. I still have it. I should be getting back into the property shortly.
And that's that. I guess whatever you have to do. I'm, you know, I was thinking about Mother Delilah too in her situation, because, you know, when her property was, you know, unlawfully taken, and then they found that they were in the wrong. They said, you know, she was right, they were wrong, but they didn't do any. The so-called authorities didn't do anything to help her get it back. So that's the part that makes no sense to me. If you're already telling me that this process, you know, was fraudulent, and somebody else is in my home that I had for X amount of years, and now I have to kick them out, and, you know, by what means? You know, would it be that it wouldn't be considered criminal on my part?
Well, but first of all, it's my inheritance. So just like they enforced their documents, what they had, like their possessions, written possessions towards me, I have to enforce my documents, because we work with 2 jurisdictions here. So I have to enforce my documents upon them, just like they did me. So
Mufti officers, Wolf Security.
Wolf Security.
So, and it's called the convoy. And that's why people have to be vetted, because we were building that in 2022, and they were the FBI, Homeland Security, ATF, and the local Charles County sheriffs. They were all watching us as we were building on our the gun range, security. and special forces, basically under the Mufti program that we was establishing. And when that incident happened, that's what threw all of it off. So they had to, they basically took advantage and created a false narrative. And then told me to my face, yeah, it was just a rumor, man. We just were spreading a rumor. Because that's the opposition. But yeah, the sister has to go back into the property. Soon,
right.
We will be able to have Sharif officers escort her along, or Mufti officers escort her to the property and cooperate with the local sheriffs, unless they get shut down this year, because we see what's going on. A lot of things getting shut down. But we have a cooperation, meaning the treaty was supposed to represent the cooperation between the jurisdictions, meaning the middle ground. And I was talking to Sheriff Carr about that, Prince George's County Sheriff. He said, yeah, we can come together on a middle ground where we can meet. The middle ground is the Constitution and the treaty. We have our laws, we have our customs, they have their color of laws and their customs while they're operating on our land, right? That's called colonialism. But even in the process of colonialism and the usufruct, that's the purpose of consular jurisdiction. In an event that we have to exercise authority within your color of law jurisdiction, we'll do it under consular jurisdiction on a meeting ground. And that's why, when the question arises, well, how do I get back in the property if it's people in the property?
Right.
The local sheriffs are not going to execute orders that's issued from consular court. They're not going to execute any order that's not from a county court, a de facto county court, that is. So, and that's their position on the chessboard. They're the sheriffs, right? The police have a position. Everybody has a position. And I want to say this for those that's taking notes. Go to the website, enforcetheconstitution.org, and click on press release. You'll see 3 posts that was done by President Donald Trump. He issued a presidential memorandum in April. I think it was the April 8th or April 9th, that was following the executive order, which deals with dismantling the administrative state as well as unlawful regulations. You all should look up what the administrative state is. Look up what administrative agency.
Oh, I can share that. Yeah. Okay. Administrative state refers to a system of governance with which unelected bureaucrats, agencies, and regulatory bodies wield significant power to create, interpret, and enforce rules, often operating independently of or alongside the traditional branches of government, the legislative, executive, and judicial. The administrative state is the quote-unquote government behind the government.
Also called shadow government. Trump called them shadow government.
Yeah, the government behind the God. So it deals with the core features are agency power, like IRS, FDA, EPA, CDC, stuff like that, making rules like a legislator, investigating and enforcing rules like the police, judging violations like a court. Unelected officials. Go ahead.
That's exactly what these de facto courts are. They are acting as administrative agencies pretending to have judicial power. And if you read, I highlighted it. I did everything that I could to post it on the website under press release. And all you got to do is read it. You can click on the picture. It's going to take you to whitehouse.gov, where it came from. But the unlawful regulations or the unconstitutional regulations that are issued by non-Article 3 courts are all supposed to be repealed. But guess what? It does not apply to stateless persons, i.e. persons that still clinging to the contracts and commercial agreements that come under the Black Code or the 14th Amendment. And the stateless persons, I just posted a video on the YouTube channel where Trump is explaining the birthright citizenship. And this is also for those Moors that's in the Moorish Science Temple of America, the 501c3 Moorish Science Temple of America that Noble Drew Ali did not create, because he created it on a religious affidavit, not a 501c3 privilege. Anyway, to all of them and anybody else that think Moorish Americans are citizens of the United States of America, thinking that that's what it means on the back of that card, guess what? The birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment applied to slavery. Trump said it. It's proved. Go to the YouTube channel, Enforce the Constitution. It's the most recent video. So you'll see references in that video that what Trump is talking about as far as birthright citizenship. The 14th Amendment citizenship meant corporations, persons. It only dealt with corporations, as that word is used in the first clause of the 14th Amendment. And it was created for freed slaves. And the word slave, drop the E, is Slav. Is that you?
Nope.
Are you descendant of Slavs? No. So why are we clinging to the 14th Amendment? Why do we have a 14th Amendment Moorish Science Temple of America? Why we have people in the 14th Amendment Moorish Science Temple of America convincing Moorish Americans that they're U.S. citizens under the 14th Amendment? Well, guess what? The citizenship clause is being repealed. It's already unconstitutional and invalid and void, and that's on congressional record. But now Trump is basically saying we're not going to pretend that game no more. So they're bringing the republic back, the form of government, the Republican form of government back, but they can't bring it back without the competent Moorish Americans who are the aboriginal heirs of the land. They can't bring it back without them. And guess what? The people that are pretending to be Moorish Americans, that are really just Asiatic Moors that are stateless or still clinging to the Black Code, Moorish subjects, undesirables, etc., you're not going to get past this time. It's not going to work. You can't use the 14th Amendment no more with the 1983 lawsuit under the Title 42. Trump is basically saying he's not playing no more color games anymore. And he said it also in an older video with Fox Friends in 2020. Those to the message to the Black Americans, or maybe he said African Americans. He said, learn your history, learn your culture. We have a history and a heritage. If you don't learn it, you're going to go right back to it. He said it in 2020. Now there's no more segregation ban. They're bringing back segregation because undesirables are not desired by civilized people. I don't desire undesirables.
It's not based on color.
It ain't based on color. It's based on character and principle. People are doing things based off the lower self and not the principle. And the principles laid out in the literature what Noble Drew Ali left. That's why he said, I gave you everything it takes to save a nation. I take it to save yourselves. Start with yourself. Hold yourself up to these principles. And he was holding up the Circle 7, and he was also holding up the 101s. And he said, save yourself, because those principles civilize the whole planet. Everybody around the planet was civilized by the Circle 7. So for people that think that the Circle 7 is new, something new that came through the Moorish Science Temple of America, no. Noble Drew Ali remembered it, came over from the other side of Egypt back over here. They saw that they ain't had nothing on him, right? He went to the secretary in the Adept Chambers, and he had her type up the whole Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, word for word. So it's ancient. It ain't something new. These are ancient principles that civilize men and women. That's why it says learn to love instead of hate. But we got a whole lot of hate. We got a whole lot of haters. And Drew Ali had did a to be proclaimed before every meeting especially for the haters. Because he said, I desire you few faithful Moors to know the truth and the divine truth. And the truth and divine truth had to deal with the traitors. And that's why we still going through what we're going through. But honors to those policy enforcers and de facto judges that still are trying to be honorable even in your limited scope of unlawful authority. You know, we know you got to do your job. You got a death oath, you know, whatever. You got a worshipful master. You got to carry out whatever you got to carry out. And you all know that I've spoke to, you know, while you were on your fake bench, you know how I go. I will say it to your face. And I'll still smile. You smile back. You show respect. We crack jokes. And then there's a mutual friendship among opponents. You know what I mean? And I think the same thing would have happened with the sister if they would have said, all right, we're going to trial like how they did me in PG County. If we're going to trial, then he helped me throughout the whole fake trial. Because I asked, I was like, no, I'm objecting. He was like, wait, now is not the time to object. I said, okay, I ain't had nothing filed in the case. And because I just got out of jail from another case. So once the policy enforcer pointed me out, it was a dangerous concealed weapon case. That's on the website as acquittal. You know what I mean? That was the first time hearing the word too. But he pointed me out and said, yes, the black African-American male is the gentleman to my right, wearing a striped suit, whatever, blue striped suit, whatever, right? With long locks, dreadlocks. And then he asked me, okay, Mr. L, now do you want to object? And I said, yes, I do want to object. He said, okay, on what grounds? I said, on the grounds of I'm not the black African-American individual stateless person that he's referring to. He said, okay, your objection is sustained. All right, state, continue with your witness. And the state's attorney, like, you know, confused. And I looked at the de facto judge. I'm like, hold up. And he looked and he did this move, looking at the state's attorney and looked over at me and then smiled and then looked back at the state. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. They do what they can to help when they see that you know what you're talking about and that you're sincere. Because these are word magicians, so they would know.
I want to interject. Somebody had put up the same question in here like at least 5 or 6 times. I guess they want to know, and I'm going to put it up so you can. I'm just going to put it up because they keep putting it up. So they're saying, I don't know that you're not, but they're saying, why?
Why aren't you exercising your right to travel? Why ain't I exercising?
That's what I know, because we didn't talk about this. This individual put this up like 4 or 5 times. So I'm just putting it up so they can stop putting it up.
Go to YouTube and look for Enforce the Constitution. And you'll see a YouTube channel. You'll see, click on videos. You'll see a stream of videos. And 1 or 2 of those videos was somebody else exercising their right of travel and me speaking on their behalf as a consul, telling them that you can't search this person that's exercising her right of travel. So go there. And there's also people that's still exercising their right of travel with the enforcetheconstitution.org tags. And in order for you to exercise your right of travel with us, you have to be trained, vetted, and background checked, because we don't just issue tags to anybody anymore. But I hope that answers your questions. And also, yes, I have land. No, you're not invited. I don't know you, and I'm not going to tell you where my land is. I'm helping people save their land. You want to see the people that I know that got their land that I'm helping? Go on the website, enforcetheconstitution.org. And you'll see the sister Charis. She's saving her land right now. Why you ask about my land? That's suspicious. I don't even want to know about your land if you have land. I don't care.
Not trying to be rude, just genuinely curious. So
okay. And sister, brother, I don't know, Chi, brother, sister. We have a lot of trolls. So I got alligator skin, and I apologize if I sounded offended, but I'm a little sharp with the trolls because that's annoying, and I do my best to avoid it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
I apologize. But yeah, I have land. I travel. I don't want to disclose my travel because of my office, and that, you know, puts me in a compromising security situation. But yeah, I assist other people with their right of travel, as well as other people's and their right to their inherited estate, which includes land. But that's part of the job description of a consul officer.
yeah. So you have classes. You know, do you have regular classes, or if somebody wants to, you know, first of all, talk about the newsletter, because first of all, you know, I know it's an amazing newsletter, and I think that people would enjoy it.
So the newsletter is it's different current events, as well as remedies, stories, world politics, puzzles, and announcements as far as like people that have declared their nationality on our public record. So yeah, it's a wealth of information, and we try to keep it as raw and real as possible, you know, as far as like the good and the bad with the Moorish American community, because we see that obviously the fake news is going to put out fake news. You know, their media, the media of the colonizers, are going to put out derogatory messages and things of that nature about Moorish Americans, or maybe as if Moorish Americans was some type of splinter religious group, like they did in Vice with the two COINTELPRO agents that was a part of the Rise of the Moors situation. Yeah, like as if we're trying to, you know, fight for our rights and our right to be separate and have our own piece of land. No, you know, we have to tell our own story, and nobody's going to tell our story and our truth but us, our history. So we starting with the newsletter, which is an extension of the website. And we're also thinking about putting together a podcast. But yeah, the newsletter is so that we can cover stories such as Charis and other brothers and sisters that are active, so that they can get the whole story. We can also cancel the false narrative that's being promoted about Moorish Americans, and so that we can promote, motivate, and inspire other Moorish Americans to take responsibility and enforce the Constitution, because that is the Great Missionary Work. We can't, like, you know, like you said, Dr. G, and somebody may have said and asked in the chat, if somebody's in the house, by the time you do the paperwork correctly and you enforce, how do you get them out of the house? Well, if we had a force, we would be able to enforce them out of the house, as well as communicate with the local sheriff and the local police to let them know our presence and our authority. So they're already recognizing the authority of the office of the Consul General of Morocco here with the office that I'm sitting in, as well as Morocco Consular Court. We now need people to be vetted, background checked, but also to be willing to exercise and enforce the Constitution to save themselves so that they can be qualified for these positions. And that is the qualifications. The qualifications is decolonize. And if you go on the website, click on Decolonize Now campaign. It'll tell you what we mean when we say decolonize. That's one of the requirements. The other requirement is all of the issues that you are dealing with right now, any alleged debt, mortgage, car loan, student loan, etc. Challenge it one at a time. Challenge it. And then when it gets to where it's a court case, or if it's already a court case, a de facto court case, challenge the jurisdiction. But ultimately, you have to go through the conflict that can't be told in words, and that's it. My motto is pretty much, if you have a record of a dismissal and it was dismissed based off of your order in the default judgment, you know, that you issue, and you can prove that, then full faith and credit has to be given to it. So you travel with that. And that's what the sister has now. That's what I've been having since 2012, when I first won my first traffic case, all of the other cases had me referring to that first traffic case. So I think that it is a requirement that all active Moorish Americans, to be qualified in a position of consul or any position of public service, to have shown that they have effectively enforced the Constitution and has receipts. I think that's a requirement. It is a requirement over here anyway.
So everyone has to go, like you said, through the vetting process, and that.
Yeah, and there's of course there's exceptions. There's exceptions, but I don't want to talk about what those exceptions are, just so that people can come, put that mask on. No.
Yeah, I just wanted to say back to what you were saying about some of the policy enforcers and stuff who really do want the knowledge, and some have the knowledge. Even our Fourth Friday, living in private classes is taught by an ex-DC police officer, policy enforcer. So, and who while he was still in their employment, so to speak, was actually, learned about, did some like exemptions and things, and showed them the laws and whatever, and was living like that. And others were like, how did you do that? So it was a way in of explaining to these people who they were. Because when he first, started to give us his background, he said, he come from a rough family, but then he joined one of the biggest gangs in DC, the police force. That's what he called, he said that was one of the biggest gangs there, and then eventually learning who he was versus who, they taught him. And so, which is good to have someone with that experience and knowledge to wake up and move to the other side of of the fallacy that we
and all of them aren't bad. That shows all of them aren't bad.
Right.
We was given that narrative for a reason, to keep the separation, but the organization itself, it's corrupt. It's bad. It was created for that purpose, for human trafficking. They're slave catchers. But but all of the brothers and sisters that work for them aren't bad at all, and they just doing it actually for a paycheck for the most part, but also because that's their way of helping the community to, not violate people's rights. Some of them go out their way to not violate your rights, unlike their counterparts, their co-workers, but you have corruption in everything. For real, you have corruption in organizations and that aren't vetted, jobs, schools. It's corruption in everything, everywhere. But that's why it's cleanup time. Everything that was built on falsehood has to come to an end. It has a beginning and the end. So, but I'm definitely curious to know how this is about to play out as far as the executive order that was issued by Trump, dealing with the repeal of the unlawful regulations, because we sent that. Well, it didn't get there until Monday. It didn't get there till yesterday. But we were planning to have that recorded in the case, because I was pretty much like, why are they still holding it as if it's going to trial? And Trump just passed this executive order. But I think that executive order, is pretty much forcing people to study history. It's either you're going to study the history so that you can understand and know why he is able to do what appears to be bad. And I'm not saying it's good, for us, but it definitely benefits us, but if you don't know what it is that he's doing, you're going to get caught up on the wrong decisions. You know what I mean? And thinking that you're fighting for something noble, you're actually fighting with the very people that want your soul, that want your birthright. Whether they call themselves Democrats or Republicans, it doesn't matter. What Trump is basically saying is no more 14th Amendment. What's the problem? That means everybody now has to proclaim their nationality. That's what that means. It actually means decolonization. That's what it means. The colonization resolution was issued back in 1960. We're still colonized, and not physically colonized by colonizers, but we're also mentally colonized because we still holding on and clinging on to the fiat currency and the processes, the Administrative Procedures Act, which is what the administrative state was built on. I mean, we're holding on to the very war machine that's causing us injury and harm. So, it's encouraged for those that are in the de facto law enforcement, those former military, and I ain't talking about the corrupt ones, just like I ain't talking to the corrupt average man or woman who's Asiatic to come over here and nationalize, because if you're corrupt, you're not wanted. Whether you be regular person, somebody with law enforcement background, does not matter. We are not looking for criminals. And that's what's been holding up the movement since Noble Drew Ali was on the scene. That's why he wrote that letter. So it's imperative that even if you are a sincere group of Moorish Americans, you have an organization, maybe you should look into background checking everybody that's a part of your organization. Maybe you should also start vetting people, because as soon as you start progressing with the constitutional enforcement and you start getting like outcomes or dismissed cases, they send them. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. They send them. And they come in and they're helpful. They're extremely helpful. They want to be right next to you, want to have the title right under yours, be in the pictures with you, all of that, just so that they can go out, do something extremely stupid, and then come back around you and ask you to help them so they can make you and your organization look bad. So vet those people. It's all love, but let's put principle in front of personality and not the other way around, because personality is derived from persona, which means mask. And everybody has several personalities. I have a father personality. I have a Consul General personality. I have a Lamont Maurice L personality. I have many personalities. I have a cousin personality, a son personality, uncle personality. We got many personalities, but principles, that's what makes the man and the woman. It's principles, because principles is what builds character. And a lot of people, their moral compasses are broke as hell. Some of them because of extreme animal husbandry training, which includes the MK Ultra. And some is because they just choose to be ignorant as hell. But it's definitely a choice. But you all have to watch. If you're Moorish American by yourself, studying by yourself, you make sure you vet everybody that comes in your way. Vet them. They say they got a process for you. Ask them for the receipts. Vet them, because it's principle over personality. This Judgment Day. Judgment Day means a lot of things. It also means you need to judge everybody around you. You better judge everybody around you and judge yourself according to how you're judging them. But it's a wealth of information that I would love to share. But yes, I do classes, and everybody's welcome to sign up. It's definitely a registration process and a screening process. Everybody gets screened. If you don't want to be screened, don't have to come this way. It is okay.
Yeah. So, wow. So that's a very good testimony, and I think it's encouragement for others who may be facing similar situations. And since of non-proton people who've already been through things like this, but may not have had the correct knowledge of how to go through the process, they get to now, they can, if they wish, revisit whatever those cases were, or to try to get, because I get horror stories. I've had people call me and say we were thrown out of our home in the middle of the wee hours of the morning with just not even shoes on our feet, and all of our belongings were put out, and they already had the dumpsters outside of that property when they came out, so they dumped all their stuff in dumpsters, and before they could even get so they do
Dr. G, And see, they were doing that anyway. You know, people try to create the narrative of, oh, when you go that route as a Moorish American, they're going to do all this bad stuff to you. They're already doing the bad stuff. They're already throwing our stuff out on the street like it's trash, or throwing it in the dumpster at an apartment complex. They're already doing that. That's the whole point of us nationalizing, so that we can stop them from doing it. And it's not an overnight process. They're not going to say, you're Moorish American? Oh, yeah, you're right. All right, let's all go home. They're Moorish Americans. No, it doesn't work that way. You actually have contracts and covenants that you have to get out of.
I have another one. I have to put this up because this individual is so uninformed. So uninformed. It just tickles me when people put up stuff and they don't know what they're talking about.
My screen froze. I just traveled back to DC
to visit. To be there for her case. You don't domicile there. Yeah. You just came there.
Oh, that's God. Oh, God. That's somebody that I kicked out of the daggone class. That's why he's talking trash. Because he didn't want to get background checked. And he was one of the ones that was fear-mongering on the Friday Holy Day services that we were having. He was fear-mongering. And every time
he knows that you're not, you don't domicile.
No, he don't know, because I don't tell him everything, and I don't talk to him no more. But I don't, because people like him, I watch. You know what I'm saying? I've been watching since I met him, and lo and behold, his truth came out, and he got the boot, he got the X, and but yeah, we traveled from Washington D.C. to Massachusetts, and then from Massachusetts back to Washington D.C. That's on camera. He was a part of the classes back then. But yeah, that's just somebody clout chasing, and he's mad. Yeah, I guess he's working. I don't know. He's very suspicious though, man. That's extremely suspicious.
So you're
and then it's like he's seeing facts too. People show themselves. Hey, listen, anybody that's speaking against the Constitution and treaty enforcement just showed you that they were an enemy to the Constitution and treaty. So that's blatant, and the light's on. You know what I mean? So everything is exposed right now. So anybody talking against enforcing the Constitution is showing you that they're a traitor. It's not rocket science. That's the supreme law of the land. Why are you against that? But that's no more conversation, because I asked him that. I remember the first time I asked him that, but that's whatever. Yeah, I just traveled back to DC.
I know you did. Anyway. I know you did. So, but it's just that, when people put things out, other folks don't know any better. And unless you confront it for what it is.
That's the other thing, Dr. G. All these other countries, they're decolonizing. The conversation is being had all around the world, decolonization. And our people over here, still catching up. But the ones that are trying to catch up, they run into people that are being silly, or that are jealous, or they just, maybe they're part of a slander campaign or working. I don't know. But that's the issue. That's why it's hard for us to have the conversation of decolonization.
Here's something. I want to put this up here.
Because we say nationalization, they turn it into a religion. Now we say decolonization, and it's still like distractions.
Here's the question. Oh, no, this isn't the one. Let me see. Wait a minute. I'll start here. This one first.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. What's going to happen when they enforce the Real ID Act on those to go on the U.S. dead corporation planes to see the world? What's going to happen is they're going to have you all take the mark of the beast. That's part of the mark of the beast. And they're calling it a digital passport. You should put that in YouTube and look it up. Digital passport. That's for the people that don't have national identification cards issued by their consulate. All around the world, you can go and Google it. Who issues national identification cards? Is it religious organizations or is it consulates? Because Noble Drew Ali, he was training us. That membership card that was called a national identification card was supposed to have been converted. Your nationality card is going to change on you in your pocket. It was supposed to be converted in the adept chambers to a consular identification card, also called national identification card. And you can go to 1508. The person that put in that question, Google 1508 national identity card. Put that in Google. You're going to see departmentofjustice.gov come up. Click on that. It's going to say specifically mention identification documents that are given preferred treatment in the absence of a national identity card. Well, if they're enforcing real ID, that's only if you are absent of a national identity card. So if you don't have a national identity card, and you're going to also need consular jurisdiction, and you don't have consular jurisdiction, then you're going to have to defend what you know. So if you got a card, call it a national ID card, defend it. If you don't want to use the real ID, you got to defend it. If you come here with us, then you have to go through a background check. You have to register. We're not depriving anybody of declaring their nationality. We do offer that service at a cost. We're not giving you your nationality. You're already that. No different than if you thought that you was a pit bull and you were born an elephant and you was barking your whole life like a pit bull till you found out, oh, damn, I'm an elephant. You're an elephant by birthright. You know, nobody can change your descent nature unless his powers extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. That's in the Circle 7, chapter 47. So you're already that. We only charge for the service of posting it on the website, signing, sealing, all of that process. And the proceeds are going to this platform as well as the office so that we can keep it running. But yeah, we do offer training and coaching because you're going to need training and coaching because as far as on how to be a national, the Moorish Science Temple of America was set up for that. Sunday school was civics. Friday was Holy Day service. And then throughout the week was supposed to have been different exercises. You know, we had a newspaper, we had a women's auxiliary, we had a young men's business league, we had all of that so that we can be civilized. Every single household is supposed to have commerce. Every household is supposed to have a business. It's not supposed to be go to work, go to the job. No, you're supposed to have, your consort, and your children are supposed to have a business together, a family business or relative business, not family, you know the word family means. But and we're supposed to be engaging in commerce. And whenever we engage in commerce with foreign jurisdictions or foreign countries, foreign nations, the jurisdiction that keeps the treaty enforcement is consular jurisdiction and consular court and venue. So in an event that there's a dispute between Sister Charis, who is a Moorish American, who's under consular jurisdiction, and a citizen of the United States, the consul is supposed to decide. The consul includes a minister. So Act 1 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Act 1, it says Grand Sheik and Assistant Grand Sheik is empowered to make law and enforce law, right? That ministerial position is also a consular position. They have the power to exercise and hear and decide cases between Moorish Americans and citizens of the United States, but they're not operating it. But that authority comes under Articles 20, 21, as well as Article 22 of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1836 between the United States of North America and the Moroccan Empire. That's why Drew Ali created the Moorish Science Temple of America, so that a state or that trust, the Noble Drew Ali Trust, it's the Moorish Science Temple of America, can protect all of the members' assets and their estate before the bankruptcy. That's why he created it. because the protection was going to be under consular jurisdiction, and Noble Drew Ali who's a prophet, also minister. So you got ambassadors, public ministers, which is sheikh, grand sheikh, that's public minister, and consul. And all of them are supposed to enforce treaty under Article 3. And that's the judicial power. To be exact, Article 3, Section 2.
Well, here's one last question I want to put up. Okay.
Reach out to go to www.enforcetheconstitution.org.
It's running under the screen. It's scrolling.
Yeah, go there, or you can not the email, but go to www.enforcetheconstitution.org and click on civic class registration. Register to be a member or a non-member so that you can attend the classes, because it's not what your question was that can't be answered in like one short statement. You know what I mean? Because after that, it's going to be another question. But like I said, everybody has to be trained. Moorish Sign Symbol of America was set up for training, but the heads, a lot of the heads, not all of them, but a lot of the heads of the Moorish Sign Symbol of America have sold out, and it's evident right now, even when it deals with the citizenship, because there's no more 14th Amendment citizenship. So what's the citizenship? What was Drew Ali talking about where it says citizens of the US of A? Wasn't talking about citizens of the United States of America. But anyway, I'll digress. We have to be trained out of the animal husbandry training, or in other words, out of the colonialism and feudalism where we were trained to be vassals. VASSAL. We have to come out of that animal husbandry training. That is colonialism. We have to decolonize, and that takes training. It takes discipline. Actually, it takes military discipline. That's what I was doing with the Sister Charis. It was military, and everybody else. It's not just her. Everybody else. We need military discipline. That's what it takes. And that's what Drew Ali had set up. That's why the Nation of Islam and Fruit of Islam is so organized and disciplined the way that they are, because it came from the training and teachings of Noble Drew Ali. That's why, and that's what we need. We all need that. We can't just pick up our rights and say, yeah, we got rights and y'all can't violate them. No, it's a rite of passage that you have to go through for your birthrights. Your birthrights come by way of right, R-I-T-E, of passage. Same things that the Freemasons go through, you got to go through. You're just not doing it in secret. You're doing it like in your actual livelihood. You're going through the rite of passage. That's how you earn the title of faithful, and you earn the honor of birthrights, because that's an honor. And then you are honored even by your enemy. You're honored.
Okay, well, listen, I want to thank you both for coming on, and Sister Charis for your story, your testimony of your experience and your victory, and the victories that we already know is going to come with you actually reclaiming your domicile. Know you will. Also want to make sure that while I have everybody here, that I'm going to just put this up. It'll be easier. This Friday coming up, Grand Sheik and I will be back together again. And we are putting on a presentation called Spellbound, Breaking the Chains of Connotative Slavery. So that is this holy day coming up, Friday, May 2nd, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We probably will be just doing Consul General once a month for a while, just because, after he did the show a couple of weeks ago, I was told he slept for 2 days. It was just, it's draining for him to expend all that energy. And so, we normally would do the first and third Friday, but I'm happy to just get him on here at least once, so he's going to be coming back on on this Friday. Yeah. And so make sure that you all, if you don't get a notification, because everybody doesn't get a notification, you know, you 427 plus folks know. So it'll be 7:30 on this coming Friday that we will be back. And we hope that you will too. We hope that you have enjoyed this presentation as much as we have enjoyed presenting it to you, and trying to get back in this, trying to get back in the swing of things and come back. I am going to be doing some more my own Tuesday shows. Got something interesting coming up. It's on a totally different topic, but y'all know Office Hours with Dr. G deals with a lot of topics. So I'll be in metaphysics or something else. But if you enjoy the presentation, you know, be open-minded, because you might just learn something that's different. You know, we are broader than what we make ourselves out to be. At least I am. You know what I mean? My consciousness is very expanded. So I want to be able to present those things that, you know, are placed on my heart to do. And I thank you, Consul General, for reaching out to me and keeping in touch with me. I really thank you all for the beautiful 3-4 page article that you all did on me in the McGriff Times. And you all go check out how many issues are I have been out, 3, 4 so far. I don't know. I think there's maybe 3.
We have volumes and issues. So I know every volume is 3 issues, and then it's another.
Okay, so you probably had about 12 issues out, maybe. Yeah. So go and check it out, and chock full of information. I'm really impressed by that. So you want to, matter of fact, I printed mine out and put it in a notebook. Put that issue. I printed that particular issue and put it in a notebook. But
I wanted to say one more thing. Because a lot of people think that you can just say that you're something, right? Moorish American, that nationality, there was no such nationality as Moorish American before Drew Ali came on the scene. Drew Ali called us Moorish Americans based off political classification distinction. And the reason is so that the birthright can be shown and identified for a specific group of people here at North America. So prior to the nationality Moorish American, prior to that nationality Moorish American, it was only free Moors and Moorish subjects. And the European colonists, they were also classified as Moorish subjects too, some of them. So Moorish American, that nationality comes with principles, but also comes with responsibility and duty, right? And the responsibility and duty is mentioned in the Moorish literature, preferably the divine warning by the prophet for the nations, where he said what the Great Missionary Work is, enforcement of the Constitution. So in that, he's telling your duty as the citizen of the land, not the citizen of the United States. We are subject to the land. We're not subjects of the land. If the land was to shake right now and open up, we'll be subject to it.
True.
So that's why we're citizens of America. We're citizens of the land. However, the land mass is made up of the same things that we're made up of. So we have a duty and responsibility to protect it. The Constitution for the United States of North America was created by our foremothers and forefathers for them in regards to international commerce and amity. So the duty of the people of the land is to enforce the Constitution, which comes also with the treaty, because enforcing the Constitution is enforcing the treaty. It's an international document. However, when it comes to rights and duties of citizens, whenever a person of a government is in dishonor of the principles of their government, they're misused, abused, or exiled, because that removes you from the trust of the people. The people, in other words, the people aren't going to trust you because you're not adhering to the principles and the responsibilities of our nation. Our nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that we did not honor the principles and creed of our foremothers and forefathers. That includes the principles in the Constitution and treaty. So it is our responsibility and duty to teach, learn, and enforce the Constitution. We can't be entitled to anything without taking that responsibility and duty. I don't know of no other government that's going to come to our aid if we're not doing that. That's why Russia, Venezuela, and all of those other governments went to Burkina Faso's aid, because Ibrahim Traore is having people enforce the principles of their constitution, right? Now, what is the commercial exchange under whenever those countries that's aiding Burkina Faso, what jurisdiction does that commercial exchange come under other than consular jurisdiction? So, as I said before, anybody speaking against consular jurisdiction, because that is the jurisdiction that foreign relations and intercourse, including commerce, is governed under. Consular jurisdiction for treaty enforcement. Otherwise, who's going to enforce the treaty if it's not a consul officer, which is a ministerial officer? Consul, put the T at the back of consul, consult. That's what ministers do. Ministers consult. That's what consuls do. Consuls minister. This is called a ministry. So we're supposed to be ministering to our people, especially if they're at a foreign jurisdiction. The foreign jurisdiction is not physical, it's mental. When you go across from Woodrow Wilson Bridge, from what they call the state of Maryland to the Commonwealth of Virginia, nothing changes in the physical. The only thing that changes is mental. That's the only thing that changed. Now you're in the state of mind of the state of Virginia, where they have gun laws that say that you can carry a gun on the outside. And you just was on the other side of the bridge where it says the state of mind of Maryland, you can't carry no gun on the outside in the holster. You see what I'm saying? It's a state of mind. So consular jurisdiction, the purpose is to minister to the nationals that are still in the state of mind of Maryland, Virginia, because you still put that even as your address or your mailing location, which is fine. But to minister to those nationals so that they won't go astray, or in other words, follow foreign idol gods of Europe of whom they know nothing. That's why the nationality of the Moors was taken from them in 1775. That's why. Well, and the name Negro, Black, and Color was given. So if we're not doing that, if you're speaking against that, that means you're an enemy to the foundation of which Noble Drew Ali built. And I end in peace and love with that. I just wanted to say that.
Well, we thank you. Thank you both for being on the show, and it's always informational and enlightening. So appreciate that, and hope you'll be tuning in on Friday with our Grand Sheik and I as we tackle that subject matter. Thank you, Sister Charis. Thank you all, everyone.
Thank you for being a soldier, Sister Charis.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for having us, Dr. G.
Yes. Of course, I'm happy to be able to, make your story public. All right, with that, we're going out of here, and
right. I'm gonna let go.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. And let me see. I'm gonna put this up here. Okay, we're going out of here. Right. Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. G. Really? Who's she? Yeah, that's me. Dr. 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 G. Really? Who's she? Yeah, that's me.